Okay, we're still recording. Sorry. So many variables. This is my life. Welcome to my TED Talk. My life is chaotic. It's
It's
not
not
like
chaotic. You
people
you are,
are
as we
like,
talked about, you're rolling with the punches. You're doing fantastic,
I roll
Mija.
with the punches.
We're high fiving. We got it going on.
Yeah.
Hey there, and welcome to Takeout and Talk, a new series from Cocina and Mecenas Media where culture's always on the menu, even if it arrives in a paper box. I'm Xorje Olivares, and I'm so thrilled to say that I have an Olympian on the show, Dr. Regina Martínez Lorenzo. If you were following the Winter Olympics in Milan earlier this year, you may have heard a little bit of Dr. Regina's story. She made history by being the first Mexican woman ever to represent the country at these games in cross-country skiing. Now, I should note that she trained for the Olympics while also being an emergency room doctor in Miami, which is mind-blowing to me. And so we talk a lot about the differences and the similarities between being a physician and being an athlete, what it's like to listen to your body and take all of that information in to train a little bit better and train a bit more efficiently for these kinds of things. We talk about dreams and goals and what it's like to really put your best foot forward when trying to not only represent an entire culture that you're standing behind, but to represent yourself and to show that you can authentically be who you are while pursuing something that is just on an absolutely different kind of level. So excited to talk to Dr. Regina, especially after she's just come off of a shift at the emergency room. So we talk about what those dynamics are. We talk about just what she has planned for the next 4 years, hint, 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 and how food factors into that. So excited to welcome Dr. Regina to Take Out and Talk. Just want to say excited because Dr. Regina has just come in from her shift, literally said, I can only do one thing. I have to talk to Xorje and the folks at Cocina with Takeout and Talk. And I appreciate it because I'm talking to an Olympian, friends. Like, it is not every day that we can say that we're speaking to somebody who's competed in one of the largest global sporting events in, like, just to ever exist, and to do so representing a country that is true to my heart and true to a lot of other people's hearts. So excited that we can have Dr. Regina again right off of shift, and also to give her food. I feel badly. I'm sure she's worked 18 hours. I'm just making this up. It might be an 18-hour shift. It's probably not, but to give her the sustenance she needs to be able to have this conversation. So I thank you for joining us, Dr. Regina, and also. Can you share what you ordered? Because I feel like folks would be curious what an Olympian eats.
Oh yeah. Well, this is a treat. This is a treat. I actually have butter chicken from a local Indian restaurant and some basmati rice and some garlic naan. So I'm really, really excited about this. This is like super, super hearty. And it'll be great for training later.
Helps you hit all the goals.
Yes.
Oh,
All the goals.
perfect.
It's delicious. I already tried a couple bites and it's really, really good.
Nice. Okay, so for my meal, I was actually going to order a caldo tlapeño from a restaurant that my partner and I love to go to here in San Francisco. Unfortunately, it was closed today. And the reason I wanted the
No.
caldo was because I felt like, in keeping with the conversation with a doctor, I wanted to talk about a food that I normally get myself when I'm not feeling well. And I feel like a caldo tlapeño, a caldo de res, one of those is like, oh, just hits the heart exactly where I need it to when I'm not feeling my best. Uh, in lieu of that, I have ordered a tostada salad,
Ooh, qué
if you could
rico.
see this,
Yeah.
from a restaurant here called Little Chihuahua. And I will say 99% of the reason I order this is because I want to eat the tostada, not even necessarily the goodness within the salad. But this has pollo asado, it has aguacate, it has pico de gallo, has all the goodness that you would hope to have in these kind of meals. But I do want to start a little bit there because I feel like, for me, when I think of caldo and I think of soup in general, I do think of being at home, being taken care of. Like, there's just that nostalgic association. And I'm wondering if you have a meal or if you have something that sticks out to you about when you weren't feeling well and you were kind of waiting for those, yeah, just those things that your either parents, other loved ones to to kind of come in here and make you feel better?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think it's also soup. And I think it has to be like consomé de pollo. That's like the go-to when I'm sick. And in general, in Mexico, it's like it's funny because I took my partner to we were in Mexico City, and he was surprised because we eat like sopita like as an entree or like as an appetizer for like any meal. It's like first you have your sopa, your soup, and then you have whatever, whatever, whatever. And then he was like, "You eat soup like every meal or every day." And like he's South African and and like part South African, part Australian. So he's like, "We don't eat soup. Like soup is for winter, and for them, soup is like cream of spinach or like cream of broccoli. Like
Yeah.
it's not as like hearty and like as a full meal sometimes as like Mexican soup." So he was like, "I don't eat soup's not a meal." And then I was like, "Oh, wait till you try like, caldo de peño, consomé, menudo, pozole." I'm like, "That's a full-on
Hmm.
meal, bro." Yeah, so basically, yeah, any soup is like my comfort food, especially when I'm sick. Some soups are like more just like hit the spot, like especially like pasta soup or like sopa de fideos, sopa de coditos. So it's like plain pasta and like lime and a bunch of like salt and chile. Good for nasal congestion. But then
It's
there's like
true.
other soups, like that may have like that are full on meals that are so hearty and delicious. So.
How recent was this trip to Mexico City?
This was actually after the Olympics. So after the Olympics, like you mentioned, like I haven't stopped. I'm go, go, go. So after the Olympics, I came to Miami, dropped my ski bag, made up a new suitcase, and that I think that same day or the next day, I flew to Mexico City for a media tour for 3 weeks. And then was there for 3 weeks. It was awesome, but it was literally go, go, go. Sometimes from 5 a.m. to like 10 p.m.
Oh my
With lots of
goodness.
different interviews and then in traffic. Some of them were in person, some of them were Zoom. So it was awesome. And then well, yeah, just to give you a little bit of kind of behind the scenes of my life throughout this process. After that, I came back. I had like one day off, worked 6 days straight in the hospital, had a day off, worked one more day, flew to LA for an interview and more meetings, flew back, had one day off, and now I'm back to work. So, and training. So it's been insane. I had yesterday and the day before that were like my first 2 days off, like where I had no agenda, which was awesome.
She just told us that she's training right after this conversation, which is like, dang, that's the kind of work and the pilas that you need to have in order to make dreams happen and dreams come true. What do you normally have to eat when you train? Does your how drastically does your diet change, if at all?
So it's crazy because like you need to like I've learned to listen to my body, and it's amazing how like it will ask you for what it needs. The biggest change, like I don't really follow a strict like diet. Like the thing that I mainly try to count is protein, so like grams of protein to make sure that I'm hitting as close to possible as that goal, because that's how you build muscle. And I have always been like on the leaner side, and it's harder for me to build muscle. So that was one of my biggest goals like in the last couple of years. I do need to start working with a nutritionist to like hone in on the specific details of my diet, but in general, um, kind of big changes with when I'm not training and when I'm training, it's just the amount of food that I need. Like I'll be fine, and then out of nowhere, I'm like famished like a rabid animal. Like I'm like I need to feast, and I get angry, so angry all of a sudden. And it's funny because when I'm not training really, or like when I'm just yeah, it's completely different. It's funny because my partner would be like, "Oh my God!" Like I went from like being super chill and just like very like low maintenance all the time to then when I started training and like going full send with the Olympics, I would just be like out of nowhere, like either my energy fades or I get so hangry, and that's not like normal for me like when before training for the Olympics. So that's like the biggest difference is even yesterday, like during my workout, I was at the gym and I finished, and all of a sudden, like I think I probably could have, I finished all the exercises that I wanted to do, but I had some like bonus exercises, or like I also wanted to try to go to the sauna because sauna has really good benefits. And I realized I'm like, I need to eat right now. I have no time to spend 15 minutes in the sauna. I was like, so I like left. So that's like the biggest change is like is that. And I think it's probably a sign that I need to be better about snacking or like eating more so that I don't get to that point where all of a sudden out of nowhere I'm like,
I know. It's funny because my partner always makes fun of me because I don't snack. I don't know why I feel like I conserve my hunger to these like weird times of day that I think I'm meant to eat a meal when you should really be eating when you're hungry. But I want to ask you because I think I'm assuming being a doctor helps with your athletic career because of this thing of knowing what your body needs, listening to your body, understanding what hurts, why it hurts, maybe it shouldn't hurt. Um, do you think that's helped dramatically? Just knowing that you have the knowledge of my body's doing this right now. This is how I'm meant to react.
Yeah, I think it definitely has helped. Not only with like training, but with recovery, with sleep, with hydration. Like I I think I had this mentality growing up of like you have to go, go, go. And which I do go, go, go a lot. But I think it wasn't until, I learned more through medicine of like the importance of sleep, the importance of how that is part of training. Like if you sleep well and it helps with recovery so you can go like the next workout, you could do it better. Like, like for instance, with sleep you like the more hours, like the first part or like when you're in deep sleep, that's like when your tissues get repaired. That's when like the magic happens and like hormones and everything come out. But then just as important is like REM sleep, which also happens like later in the sleep cycle. And REM sleep is what gives you the bandwidth to have mental strength and to have that resilience. And I've noticed that when I wake up and for instance, if I set alarms and I wake up in the middle of REM, like I'm super tired and I feel already a little bit more mentally defeated than I would if I had just woken up naturally. So when I don't have to go into work and I only have to train, I don't set alarms. So that's like actually sometimes I feel like people it's counterintuitive. People think like, oh, she probably sets alarms and wakes up at 4 in the morning. It's like, no, I wake up and my body's ready. That is when I am good to go. Um, so that's one of the things as I try to prioritize like sleep and recovery is because it's fundamental to the training process so that
Hmm.
you can keep building. Um, and then, things like hydration or, it's like it'll sound maybe like gross, but if you're dehydrated in the hospital or like a medical or like clinical setting, you think about like urine output. So like, are you peeing enough? And so then sometimes I'll like think about my hydration status in that way. It's not like, oh, I drank X amount of cups of water. It's like, oh no, because you can drink a bunch of water, but if you're not peeing, then it's not you're not adequately hydrated. And it's not just water, you need electrolytes because too much water is actually harmful. It can like damage your level of electrolytes. So things like that I've like incorporated into my routines and trying to stay like keep that in the back of my mind. Or like noticing my heart rate. Like if your heart rate's more elevated than normal, it means either you're still dehydrated or you're not recovered. So, so kind of listening to like the science and the biological signs of my body is what I do to keep training and to keep recovering and to kind of try to optimize that.
I want to ask you because you did talk about sleep and the importance of sleep and deep sleep and REM. Were you able to sleep when you arrived in Milan? Or were the nerves of, oh my God, I'm an Olympian, I made it, I'm here, I'm representing my country. Like, how were you able to balance the excitement of being there, but also the anxiety of performance?
That's actually a great question, and nobody's ever asked that. And it was actually way harder than I thought it would be. Because multiple reasons. So one is the excitement. The first you're excited because your competition is also a little far away. Then you get nervous because your competition gets closer. And then you also get like jitters when you like after I saw the track and like realized how like challenging it was, I was like, oh God. So then it's like became like kind of jittery and like excited because of that. Then it's as the closer it got to the race was actually the hardest because you start tapering. So you start training way less to save energy so that you're like at peak performance before the race. But my de-stressor is usually working out and like training. And when you're not, when you can't do that because you're trying to build all your energy, save all your energy for the show, for the big day,
Mm-hmm.
you just get even more energy, then like more anxious. So then that's when I was making a lot of like content on Instagram, because I also didn't bring a hobby. I feel like a lot of athletes that have been to the Olympics before brought hobbies like knitting, like this or that, or like they have a lot of like active they have a big, usually bigger team, so like a lot of like activities and things. Like they're in quarantine, but they'll still be doing things together.
Mm-hmm.
So it was definitely hard. And what I did is I started like getting back. It kind of, it's funny because you have this whole routine, and then you get to the Olympics in the village, and with the excitement and the new changes and the new housing situation and this and that, like I actually for the first few days I just kind of like lost my routine. And it was funny because I asked a friend that's been to the Olympics before, and he was like, you need to, like, the most important thing is you establish a routine in your new environment. And I was like, this is exactly what I needed to hear, because this is what's going on, that I'm not even realizing it, because there's so many cool new things and exciting things happening. So then I got back into establishing my routines, and part of my routine is like my sleep routine. So it's like showering with hot water at night, helps you get relaxed. Sometimes drinking like certain teas, like sleepy time tea or something. That's part of my nighttime routine. I didn't have that for the Olympics, but what I did have, which I sometimes use, mostly when I'm come back from work, when I have a lot of adrenaline and I know I won't be able to sleep well naturally because I'm still like jacked with adrenaline. I'll take like melatonin and or Benadryl,
Mm.
and that helps me sleep. I wasn't necessarily planning to do that for the Olympics, but I brought some in case of emergencies, and I did end up needing to use it the closer to my race, because I had way more energy and like way more excitement, and then some like jitters that all kind of compounded. So my sleep was really getting kind of worse the closer I got to my race,
Oh
and so I had to
no.
use a little bit of support. But yeah, it's part of my routine. I continued my routine um into it. So that's a great
Yeah.
question.
I'm curious also about a realization I'm now having is the importance of improvisation as both an athlete and as a doctor, and like especially in these emergency room situations I can imagine, and while you're on the course and like, oh no, this is not what I thought it was going to be, and now I'm a minute behind or I'm a minute up, and how do I keep up with the people around me? Like, can you talk about those similarities about how maybe working in an ER helps you make these split second decisions?
So it's actually really funny because, well, in the moment in a race, I feel like I'm good about making those decisions, like game time or minute, split second decisions. But mainly, not really. It's like the ER has taught me to be calm under pressure, and to be very present. So that part of being calm under pressure and present, I did use for races in the Olympics. But it's funny because everything is magnified at the Olympics. Like emotions are heightened. So what I was surprised is actually I I felt less like level-headed, or less like calm, cool, and collected.
Mm-hmm.
Like I felt less that way, less so in the Olympics than in the ER. Because it's funny. Like I've raced before, I've done many races before, but I've never raced an Olympics before. Um, and so like I've done a lot of codes, I've done a lot of like resuscitations in the hospital. And when you're used to doing so many, then it becomes, more like second nature, and it's not like a huge deal. But in the Olympics, like because it was all a new experience, like even though it was just another race, it did not feel like just another race for so many reasons. So
Mm-hmm.
in that sense, it was like harder to manage that part during the specific, like during my race. I was able to kind of like like tune into my body and like make those decisions similar to other races. Like once I started, then it became more of like second nature, like what I was used to. But everything leading up to it was definitely like harder to cope with, or harder to bounce back, because of just like the added pressure and like the heightened emotions. But once I was in the moment, and like once I had started, um, it was definitely easier and just more like second nature. Uh, but that was funny because there was one moment where like I knew that I was going to be excited and maybe more emotional than so I knew that I had to like be a little bit more reserved at the beginning because I didn't want to like fade and like crack, like go so hard
Oh,
and
that's
then like I feel
fascinating. Yeah.
so it was funny because there was one girl who actually passed me on the uphill. She started behind me and she passed me and she was going at like almost like a sprint pace. And I was like, I got kind of like heated up and fired up and I was like, I'm gonna stay, like I won't let her, I'm gonna stay at her rhythm. I won't like let her like drop me. And then I started and after maybe like I don't know, 10 meters or so, I was like, I can't keep up with this pace. Like I need to drop, like I need to let my ego aside and like just run my own race and like go at my own pace because don't think I can sustain this. And I'm glad I did because she was one of the ones that didn't finish. And I don't know why she
Oh.
didn't finish, but I wonder if that could have been a factor where like, hey, this is only the second kilometer of 10K and you're going at a sprint pace. Like if I was like, damn, like either she got super, super, super strong or I'm like way, way slower, or like I was like, well, we'll see how this plays out. So I'm like, I'm gonna drop back a little. Um and just let her go. And then thankfully I did that because I finished the race.
Hmm.
And it didn't kind of get heated up in the moment with that. I decided to be like, no, we're gonna drop it back a sec. So that was yeah, that was
Yeah.
that.
Would you say what are you doing in those 34 minutes in your head? Is it like pep talk? Is it like playing music in your head that you love that you know is going to motivate you? Is it praying? What happens during that
Like
time to
during
help
the actual race?
during but like internally? Like your
Oh
body
my
knows what
gosh.
it's doing, but
Yeah.
what is your brain telling you?
I'm in like autopilot. Like I focus on every movement, every I'm like in the maximum like level of like presence that I can be. And one of the things that I learned helped me a lot is like focus on every movement, like make sure that I plant my feet the right way, make sure that I put, my poles in the right location. And part of it I think is because I'm a newer skier, so I'm trying to do everything like perfect.
Mhm.
But like newer relative to the others, like I started 5 years ago, 5, 6 years ago, and they started, when they were three. Like, so I'm like in that sense, like I'm like years behind. So part of it is I think like focusing on that, but I also learned that if I focus on every movement, I stop focusing on the pain and I start focusing on the task and like everything I'm doing at that time because it hurts. It is so painful. Cross country skiing is so freaking painful.
I'm glad you
Um,
said that because I feel like, I mean, yes, I would assume that us as the public would realize, like, oh, these people are putting their body through extremes. So I'm sure there is a level of pain that we don't register. So I appreciate that you're underlining, like, no, this hurts.
Yeah, it hurts so much. Actually, it's called the pain cave. When you're cross country skiing, you go into this pain cave and it's like it's just you against the hills and you against the elements and the nature and the cold and the snow pelting at your face or whatever. And like you against your mind and you against your body. It's a really, really surreal experience. And for me, part of my way of not like getting into like the pain because once you start like noticing the pain then it's like hard to unnotice it or like it's really hard to like not let it affect you, so I just focus on the movements and like everything that I'm doing in the moment, like the task at hand. um but it's amazing because usually like I can be so focused that I don't even hear like the crowds. Like the only voice that I may be able to hear is my teammate Alan or one of my coaches, but like other than that, like the rest is just like a blur. But it was awesome that during the Olympic race, one of my goals was like to enjoy it and to be present. Like, and I didn't know how that was going to play out because usually I'm so focused and like everything's a blur. But there it was awesome because I was able to not only focus on the task at hand, but when it was cool because when I heard screaming and cheers in Spanish, I got out of like out of my head and was
Oh.
like present in the moment. Because and like I'm used to hearing people cheering, but that's never really for me, or it's just like in general. And like hearing cheers in Spanish, I was like, those are for me. Like that is only for me. And that was awesome. Like that's what got me out of like the moment, out of like the pain cave. And like I would
Hmm.
look and like smile and just be so grateful and so thankful to be there. And that would give me like little boosts of energy like throughout the race.
Let's see if you can follow me along with this particular question, because I'm curious if there's something inherently Mexican you feel about cross country skiing or about medical work. Like, are there certain things that while you're in the process of doing these, you think, man, I'm at an advantage because I'm Mexicana?
I think a lot of it is like the mentality of like, hard work and like dedication and like not not thinking like it's a very both are very like humbling jobs or humbling experiences, you know? And I think from growing up being Mexican, I always learned like, treat everybody equally, like be humble, like roll up your sleeves and work. And like you're not better than anybody else. Like at least that's how I was raised with my parents is like partially I think it's Mexican, partially it's because like my dad grew up on a bunch of like sports teams. So I had a coach
Mm.
growing up and it was like a team-based mentality. Um, so I
Oh,
think
that's beautiful.
I
I
think
like that.
yes, I think that's one thing that's like helped me both in medicine and in sports and like in cross country skiing is treating everybody equally, like rolling up your sleeves, like knowing when it's time to grind um and putting in the hard work and yeah, and sometimes I think not always, doing it for like the community or the greater good and not just like for yourself and like not thinking about others, I think is also very like Mexican, since we come from big
Hmm.
families and stuff, like it's a very like thoughtful culture. So in medicine and in sports, I think that's one of the things that has helped me is like as a doctor, like I think of the team. I don't see hierarchy. Like some people are like some doctors treat others who are not doctors like differently, which is really unfortunate. There's a lot of like hierarchy in medicine, but not not with me. I try even to tell people like even like staff like you don't have to call me like doctor. You can just call me Regina.
For those who are not getting a chance to watch this particular episode, which I highly recommend going to our YouTube page to watch this episode or to go to starpix.tv. But you're in your scrubs. You literally just came out of the ER to have this conversation with us. Not that she left the ER just to have this conversation. She has finished a full day of work. She's here with us before she goes to train. But I'm curious if you could talk about sort of how you feel in your skin when you're wearing your scrubs, and then how you feel in your skin when you're wearing, let's be specific with the Olympic outfit. And when you were on that, when you were essentially performing, competing, like how did you feel in your skin then?
It's definitely been something really interesting to kind of grow into. I think in both. In the scrubs, I've been long in the scrubs for way longer than I have with like the ski race suits. So in the scrubs, I've definitely like come to feel way more comfortable. All the learning, all the hours of studying like have paid off to now I go to work and I'm not like, I go in and I feel prepared for whatever's gonna come my way, which is really, really exciting. And it's awesome to just go in and just feel, comfortable and confident and if I come across things that I don't know or that I maybe are intimidating, and I know who to ask or but that doesn't really happen too much anymore after, medicine and residency and all of that. Um, the interesting thing is like and I'm gonna take a step back for a second. In
Yeah.
both medicine and in skiing, I've faced like really big imposter syndrome. In medicine, it is normal because we all start, we're all medical students. We all start knowing nothing, and you just wear your little white coat, you show up to the hospital, and patients expect you, like you look like a doctor, so they expect you to know things and like to be a doctor. Um, and so you get a great sense of imposter syndrome when you start in medicine, and like as the years go by, like it slowly starts to fade. But the cool thing is like you always have classmates. In medical school, I had like 200 classmates, so we all felt the same way, and I never felt alone. It's like, oh man, like we would talk about like our struggles or, our patient encounters or things.
Yeah.
Like I remember when I was asked by a patient, like, can I eat a banana? And I'm like, I don't know if you can eat a banana. Like it has potassium. Like, are you going to die? Like, and you just don't see the bigger picture. And I was like, oh, I'm like, let me ask your doctor. Like, let me ask. And then I
Yeah.
would I would ask, like the residents or the attendings, like, can they eat? Because there's things that sometimes you don't see because you're still learning. There's so much to learn. And so now, years later, I don't feel that way at all. And like, but at least when I did feel that way, it was universal. It wasn't just me, and it
Hmm.
was all the students, and there was a support system, a big support system, of like med students and then residents that felt the same way and were in the same boat. But in skiing, because well, for the same reason, for a similar reason, like I started skiing late, and it's a sport that's like it's a winter sport, and we don't really have snow in Mexico. And so in that sense, I'm like I feel like an imposter, just like in general. Then there's like the going from like zero to Olympian in like 5 years, was like crazy. It was
Which
like
is so
crazy, like
awesome. It is such an
growth.
awesome accomplishment.
And yeah, so it was such like a crazy like growth spurt, but because everybody else has skied from when they were basically born before they even walked, I had a lot of like that not necessarily insecurity, but that kind of like imposter syndrome or just, and I was alone because everybody else started years ago. And the people that maybe understood how I felt were other skiers, but they were more like recreational. They weren't like trying to go to the Olympics. So it was like a really weird, like a very isolating feeling,
Hmm.
in that sense. And like the imposter syndrome was harder to deal with because it was just me, and like it was me opening a path like for Mexico and for women's cross country skiing. Like it's crazy now in retrospect, but like I had this dream that had never been done before, and I just like found, I'm like, I'm gonna find my way and build my way to get there. And it's super exciting and super like rewarding, but it did come with those struggles, and those unseen struggles of like sometimes feeling insecure, or sometimes feeling lost, or sometimes feeling very alone. And so to answer your question about like how I feel like in medicine I'm way more like comfortable, confident with wearing the uniform. In skiing, it's definitely getting there, but I think it's not quite there where it needs to be. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited to like try like to go for the next Olympics. Like I am so excited for the next four
Yay.
years. Because if you think about it, I started skiing 5 years ago, and I just and now I'm an Olympian, which it sounds crazy to say out loud because I don't really, part of it's because I'm
Oh my
like
God,
humble,
say it
part of
all
it's
the
because it's like
time.
hard to believe. I'm like, I'm an Olympian. But now it's like if I was able to achieve what I achieved in 5 years during medical school, during residency, living in Miami, like on the beach with like minimal vacation and like no sleep and lots of shifts, like 24-hour shifts, night shifts, day shifts. If I was able to do that, imagine what can happen in 4 more years, which is almost double the amount of time. And now that I actually have like some sort of flexibility, I have like money, I have time, like well, I don't have that much money, but I can make way more than I did in residency. But
Oh,
I'm like,
I thought you were saying time. I was like, you don't have time. I was like, I love that you're
I
squeezing
barely.
everything in to make time.
Yeah, you definitely have to make time, but relative to residency, I do have more time now than I did before. And relative to residency, I have more money or more opportunity to make money than I did in residency. So it's definitely, that's what excites me. And I still think like I have a long way to go in skiing. Like this is only the beginning, and that's what motivates me is to be able to, I need to like feel 100% confident in my skin, in skiing, in my suit, and like know that I belong. And also, and I think it's not just like myself accepting that I belong. I think it's like showing the world that Mexico belongs, and that the world like accepts that we belong, and that it's so foreign anymore. I think that's when I will can like retire peacefully.
Oh, well, you absolutely belong. Mexico belongs. Latinos belong wherever we want to be placed in the world. So I'm excited to know that you are competing. You're you're trying and training your best to be able to compete in the upcoming Olympics. We will absolutely keep tabs to make sure that we can follow you on your journey. How can people follow you on this journey on social, or how can they support you to get you to the next Olympics?
For sure. So there's many ways you can support. I think one of the ways where you can be kind of more in tune of all the fun things that I'm up to, all my shenanigans, is to follow me on social media. I do more Instagram than TikTok, but I'm trying to do better at both. So that's the doctor, the word spelled out, doctor underscore Regina or Regina, and that's my socials. There is a documentary that's going to be coming out soon here called Buscando Nieve or Chasing Snow. That really highlights kind of the whole journey into like from when the moment I qualified or got the spot for Mexico to the Olympics, the year-long journey. A crew like followed me around and captured all the moments, all the struggle, all the drama behind the qualification, which was way more than you'd think. It was really, really a crazy year. And so that'll be coming out at some point. And yeah, I think those are the two main ways. Those are the two main ways to kind of stay in touch and follow along the journey. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here for this conversation. This has
Of
been an awesome
course.
interview. Your questions have been very like more in depth and more kind of like raw or getting into like the deeper parts of things that maybe are not as obvious. So I really am appreciative of your questions and of this time and of the food that we're about to have.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. That means so much, and I appreciate. I impart to you some good food, especially right before you go training. Think about the food while you're training, especially when you're going through those pain caves. Like, just know that Cocina's here. We're here supporting you, and so many others are also supporting you. So thank you so much for your time and for your representation.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll have another one of these conversations soon with some whatever cool story I have next or whatever developments I have.
No kidding, because I feel like there will be many. But thank
Yes.
you, thank you.
Thank you.